Hello and welcome back to the Humble Ego podcast, a space where I hope we can have truthful conversations about the good, bad and uncomfortable parts of being a creative. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joy. I am once again joined with my mum, Tamar Ben Hur, highly requested guest.
Hello.
Frequent flyer of the Humble Ego podcast. Mum made that joke before and I made fun of her, but I'm going to use it.
Because you said it wasn't funny.
This is not. You giggled to yourself. We're back on the pod. We are digesting a lot of Italian food right now.
True. Too much information, maybe.
I thought, just to be honest. So
we're multitasking.
We're digesting and we're gonna chat to you guys. But yeah, this episode is a little bit different to the kind of more interview ones I've done in the past because through doing this podcast, we've just realized that we love doing it together. Like, I love having you on here. It really helps just having someone that I love talking to bounce off. And you guys seem to be loving us as a little duo. And so we thought maybe we would just start doing more podcasts that we are just us talking about different things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a new kind of series. If you guys have any ideas for names, if you guys like this idea, let us know in the comments, through messages, all of the above. But yeah, so we have some kind of topics we were thinking to cover.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I thought would be really interesting for us to talk about, which we've talked about a lot already just in life, is just the hard part of like putting yourself out there as a creative.
Yeah.
You know, like actually finishing a project and putting it out into the world. Like it's kind of a theme that I've covered a lot in all the episodes in the podcast already, because it is such a crucial part of, I feel like, being a creator, is that like that moment of when you're putting that creation out and it's no longer your little thing, but you have, I don't know, it's just out there for other people to perceive and for you to see differently. Like, I find whenever I put out something into the world, I often suddenly see it really differently.
Right. And the element of, you know, being in a creative process and really seeing it as a process, and that process has different stages.
So true.
And we're kind of fast forwarding to the last stage. The last and final stage is when you actually, all that work, all that, you know, from the moment of conception and bringing it into action and getting all the tools and doing all the hard work, and then it's done and it's ready, and then you're wanting to share it with the world. That stage, that part of the creative process.
Which I think, I mean, I know for myself, and I know through talking to you and other creatives, is just such a difficult part of the project that a lot of creatives of the process that a lot of creatives just get kind of stuck on. It's like, okay, I've done all this work, I have finished something, or like maybe it is just they don't finish it because they know once they finish it, the next step is putting it out there.
Right.
But like that whole part is really hard, and you've really helped me get better at that. And because of the way my job is right now, which is a lot of social media and content creation, which means I'm doing this creative process quite fast all of the time.
Yes.
I feel like you've had to see me go through it a lot, and I'm interested to see your perspective of like watching me learn how to do that.
Yeah. I mean, firstly, I think I realized through watching you that it is a muscle.
Yeah.
And that the more you use it, you know, the better you get at it, and you get more familiar with all those little feelings that can interfere in the way, all those voices in your head. You're like, oh, you again, I know you. I'm just going to put you on the shelf now. 100%. Thank you for helping, or thank you for wanting to protect me, but I'm not necessarily going to be listening to you right now. And identifying all those feelings, not getting as hooked and into kind of spiral down with them. So I think it's definitely a muscle, but does it actually get easier?
Like, I would say yes and no, right? Because I really agree with that. Like, it's a muscle. Like, if I look back at me when I started posting videos to me now, or even with this podcast, like, posting that first video, those first few are so much harder than how I feel now. So it does get easier, and yet still there is so many moments that I just
you need
terrified.
to overcome.
Yeah, and it's that same process of like just the fear of how will other people perceive it, the fear of it not being good enough, and that thing of like, does it even deserve, like, I think it's that thing, I mentioned it maybe in my episode with Patty, but sometimes also when you work on a project for a little bit longer, right, you then put that extra pressure on it to be better. Or
so what helps you?
I think a lot of things that you taught me.
I always like getting my stuff reflected back to me. It was like, oh, did I actually say that? Oh yeah, yes I did. I agree with myself.
I think a lot of things have helped me. I think one thing is just like you said, is remembering that it is a process, and that like when those voices in your head come, to really be able to silence them and be like, you're familiar, I hear you, but I'm not going to listen to you. I think also a big thing that I struggle with, and I think a lot of other people struggle with, is just when putting something out into the world, like, how will other people perceive it? I think that's the biggest thing as a performer, as someone putting stuff online. It's like, yeah, like, how will other people see this? Will they like it? And I've always been quite a people pleaser. And so that's something I've really struggled with, and something that has really helped me, especially in this like new age digital world where we all have these like online platforms and are meant to somehow capture all of who we are on this one fucking Instagram page, is just remembering that we are so multifaceted.
Right.
And that like this one project that you're putting out, this one video or this album or whatever it may be, is not ever going to be able to capture all of who you are.
Right.
And so when people are judging it or whatever, it doesn't matter, because it's just one facet of you. And it's also you in that moment. Right. And like, we're constantly changing, and like, it's crazy how much we put pressure on the creations that we make, because they're not us. I think we put things out into the world being like, it like triggers all that stuff of like, will I be accepted, will people like it, will people like me, right. But it's like, it's actually just your creation. And when people usually see it, it has nothing to do with what they think of you.
I think that's so true. You know how we mix our value with the feedback that we will get with our offering, with basically a representation of a part of ourselves. It's not even all of us, but even if there were magically a way to project all of you into a creation, it's still not you. It's still a creation. And I think that's such an important distinction.
It like really helped me, like even in the last episode we did together where you interviewed me, and I got really emotional, when I was looking back at it and watching it. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to put this out. I was thinking like, fuck, like, will people think this and this of me? And you just were like, this is a part of you. It's not the whole you. It's you on that day. It's a part of me that usually only my close friends and you get to see in vulnerable moments. And just remembering that that's just like one segment of me just really like helped me be like, and also really landing in the value of what you're sharing. So what's the motivation behind that? And I think that really helps us overcome the insecurity, because when we actually understand why we're doing what we're doing, and not only what we're doing, but what's the reason behind it, then we can really land in that, and that can really give us the confidence to release it, to let it have its life. Such a good point. Because I think of all the moments that I've put maybe something out there and then felt really bad about it after.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always the moments where you do it from an intention. You put it out from an intention that isn't what you would want. Like, for instance, for validation.
Right.
You know? And then once you put it out from that place,
Right.
then you're
That's
probably
a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope.
Exactly.
Whereas if you put it out from a place of like, I think this could help someone,
Right.
or I want to do this for my own self-growth, or for, you know, a more grounded
Exactly.
place, I feel like it doesn't rock your world as much if not many people watch it or not many people like it, because you're like, I did it
Mm-hmm.
from the place that I chose, you know, rather
Right.
than...
There is this really great talk by Simon Sinek, Finding Your Why.
Yeah.
And I think that really talks about that. So whenever before any presentation you want to do, or any kind of creative offering, really finding your why.
Yeah.
Why am I doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And that really helps grounding you.
And it's hard. Like, we think we know what we're doing, right? Like, we are so easily wrapped up in just our life and our world and stuff that we don't actually often sit down and actually ask.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I found that so much growing up. Even still now, it's like, that's why I'm so grateful to have you in these moments, is like, I'll be putting something out and it's just that, like, so where is this coming from? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's your intention behind this? Why? Sorry, my phone is beeping. But I feel like once you have that like question and you're really able to sit in it, it's so good. Like, I feel like really asking yourself that question before every time, journaling, things like that, can really help.
Right. And then you're not negotiating your value with the feedback you're gonna get from the outside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Completely. So that was something I really wanted to cover.
Yeah, I think, you know, putting yourself out there, it's interesting because for me, watching you do that so frequently, and I can support you, but then in my own private life, you know, there is a part of me that's you know, constantly also trying to walk my own talk.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
No,
it's really, really
it's
not easy. I mean, there is, full disclosure. I mean, I've finished writing a book. It's not my first book. It's actually the third book that I've completed and I haven't published.
Yeah.
And there is a part of me, and it's just now ready to send to publishers. And there's always a reason why not now, and just needs to get a bit better. I keep on asking myself, you know, what's that, so I can really identify with how challenging it is.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, and I feel like my ex would be very comfortable with me saying this. I know he wrote an article about it because he's an amazing writer, but he didn't really realize for a long time when we were together, because he wasn't doing many creative things, how actually hard it is. Like, he didn't see with my YouTube channel and stuff, like, how hard it is to actually put yourself out there. And now that he is writing and doing more creative things and putting himself out there, he's like, oh my God, Joy, like, this is so hard.
Yeah.
And like, can see it. And I think that's something that's really big within just the creative process of, like, I think only other creators and people that have actually tried to put it out are the ones that actually understand how hard it is.
Right.
Like, when you haven't done it, it's easy to be like, and so many people do make the excuses of like, oh, I'm just busy or whatever. So they never actually go through the process of putting it out there, because they don't really actually want to acknowledge how
difficult it is.
How difficult it is. Like, it's easier to just pretend you don't want to put it out than,
right.
And so that's also like a thing that I really realized, was that like some people just really don't, don't want to go there.
Exactly. And that's also really important as a creative person to realize, who are you actually getting the feedback from?
Yeah.
So who are you allowing yourself to listen to? Because so many people that can give you feedback about what you did are actually people that Brene Brown, calls, they're not in the arena.
Yeah.
They're actually not putting themselves out there. So they're not necessarily, their opinion is not necessarily valid.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved that when I listened to Brene's book and she talked about the arena, and we talked about it a lot because it is that thing of like, and that's why I love this creative collective, is because there is something about the people that are in it that you're like, no matter what you do understand a certain level of like
what it takes
to step into your authentic self and put out creations and work and put out yourself into the world. It takes a lot of courage, and it is that thing of like, I have experienced it where I've made something or made a film or whatever it is and shown it to someone from a vulnerable place of like, I don't know, just maybe wanting that like feedback or acknowledgement of like, it's good, you're doing something, like, well done for putting it out there. But if it's not the right person, it can really hurt because they're not seeing you for, oh my God, look at you being brave and doing this. They're seeing it as like, oh, like people don't understand how fucking scary it is for some people to post a photo on Instagram.
Exactly.
Like, I have friends that's really hard for them.
Right. And how much we really create each other with our feedback, and how important that is to actually really be able to reflect back to a person that is taking that extra step. All the things that you love about what they did, and all of the things that touched you.
Yeah.
I was facilitating a program of public speaking for women called Women Speak by Casey Baker. And a big part of what we were doing there with public speaking was actually rewiring our brain to expect to be celebrated when we speak up. And it was so interesting to see women, speak, and the amount of fear that's stored in the body just around speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And how we are desperately wanting to share, but then there is just so much that's telling us that it's dangerous, that it's scary, that we're going to be, shamed for it or burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
And this memory is actually in our body. So rewiring ourselves to trust that we will be met, that our voice has value, that what we have to offer can make a difference.
100%.
It's so important.
Yeah. And I remember you saying something like with the Women Speak, that after every woman spoke, you guys gave her like a standing ovation.
Yeah.
And how much that can just change to have that experience of speaking, and no matter what you said or how it was, you have people supporting you for doing it.
Exactly.
I thought that was really beautiful.
Yeah. And that was also something that you reflected back around the acting course that you did in London last year, and how that was also, the growth was not actually through criticism.
Yeah.
It was actually through reinforcement.
100%.
And how much we grow better that way. We learn more. When our brain feels safe, we're actually are able to be creative. We're able to find creative solutions.
Yeah, completely. I feel like it's also that thing of like so many creative, there is that like cool, like you have to challenge yourself and get really like
get to the edge.
Yeah, and like
and break.
Yeah, like have that horrible teacher that like makes you like
break you.
Yeah, like I don't know, that weird concept of like to be the best you have to like, and growth comes through obstacles, but I don't think that like that is needed.
Right. It's also the idea like the suffering artist, that in order to be creative you need to be really tormented and go through so much suffering. That's also a myth. It's interesting to reflect on that.
Yeah, because that's never been my experience.
Right.
And I think I'm really grateful for that. but like I can tell that other people, yeah, I guess I have some friends that feel like they need to experience more life or go through more shit to have something valid to say.
Right.
Or to be able to create work that is meaningful.
Exactly. And in a way, it can be another trick of the mind.
Yeah.
You know, why not now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to quickly reset the camera.
Okay. So why do you think it's important for us to put our work out there? Why do you think it's such a big deal?
I mean, from personal experience, sharing my work and like creating is just a way for me to find meaning in my life. It's a way for me to connect to others. And so like, you know, earlier the beginning of the year, end of last year, like if you follow my YouTube, you might know, but my dad had to go to hospital, and it was just a really crazy end of the year. And you know, when you're in that situation where you think you might lose a parent and are going through all this, it really puts things into perspective. And it was a moment that I really realized that whilst going through all of that, something that really helped me was knowing that I could make a story out of it, that I could have a film out of it that would hopefully make other people feel less alone. And I remember talking to you and being like, is it really weird that I still feel like I need to film some of this to be able to create something from it? But I think it's that thing of like, I knew that I process it all through creating, and I can find meaning from it, you know, like whatever happens, I'm going to find meaning. And it really helped me to know that hopefully that could help other people. And I think that's always been the way that I process everything in my life, is the embarrassing moments I instantly think after, oh, it's going to be so funny to tell my friends, as a way of coping, to not feel shame or embarrassed about it. I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a funny story to tell on the vlog, or, you know, one day use in a movie, or, you know, it's just that thing of giving life meaning for the hard and the good and the everything. That's so beautiful. And so I think for me, creating is so important in that way. Right. And if I didn't have a force in me to like if I didn't have a reason to put it out there, I don't know if I would be finishing all this work. Right. Like I don't think I'd be making all these videos if I didn't push myself to be like, well, you have to upload a video every week, or like you have to put this, like there was a decision there, and like I have to put things out there. And because of that, then all these creative projects can come out, and I can find so much meaning in little things. And I think it's beautiful. Like I'll look at a dingy alley in a city and be like, that would be a great shot for like an intimate moment between two people, and like instead of just seeing an ugly alley, I see something like a potential with meaning. Yeah, I think creativity can really give you this new lens to look at everything through, you know. And every creative has a different lens in their area and whatever it is. But I think that's, for me, what I find. That makes so much sense. Is so important. Yes. Yeah.
I also think that, and I wonder if you agree, that there is like that last alchemy that happens. You know, the creation it's almost like it's missing something, and when it meets the other, you know, and like you say, even if it's only one person, then all of a sudden it comes to life. It comes to its own life. I wonder if you have that feeling as well.
I think it definitely does. I also think it's really crazy, like even with YouTube as an example, I'm just using it as an example because it's easy and it's what I do so much of the time, but like I'll create a video and I will be like, I can't even look at it anymore. Like I'm like, I can't listen to my voice. I don't even like this video. Fuck, I'm just going to put it out there. Yeah. I finish it and then I'll watch it back like a month later and be like, well,
see it completely
yeah,
differently.
like you can see it completely differently.
Right.
And there is something about that, putting it out and then suddenly seeing it
Yeah. I
from
remember
a
that
different lens.
that really happened to me when with my poetry. You know, I was writing a lot of poetry, especially in my 30s, and I did actually have one poem composed and recorded, and I was listening to it, I think a few years ago, and all of a sudden I realized, like, wow,
this is actually good.
Yeah, it's so good, and it just has a life of its own. It just actually carries so much more meaning than what I even intended for it to have.
It's so beautiful, and like what you said, it's like it actually had more meaning and stuff. Is that thing that also really helps me with putting things out in the world, is this trust in almost something coming through you, like that you are just a vessel, like not to be like, this is my work,
right?
But it's like, I just created it, because so much of creativity, like, it feels almost like a download, at least for me. Like, I guess I feel pretty spiritual at times, and at least with creativity, I feel very like like it does feel like sometimes I just get these ideas, like Humble Ego. Right. I can't claim that I made this up or whatever. It just felt like this thing that I was like, I have to
it landed,
and I was like, fuck, well, I have to bring it to life. And I think that, like, creating from that place is also really beautiful, to be like, we're actually just of service. Yeah. And when we get these ideas, it's just like something being like, we're giving you the seed and you need to water it. Right. But you aren't like the one that's, you know, like, you're not actually the one that invented it. No. Like you found it. Yeah. I really love that perspective. And I also love the idea, and I find the idea really comforting, that the cracks is where the light shines through. And I think that really also sits well with the Humble Ego message. 100%. That place where the imperfection is actually where the light comes through, and really trusting that. You never know what's going to land. We're here having a conversation, and I can think that, there's something, what I have to offer is what's interesting. And then in the end, I realize in the comment, it's like, could be something completely different that lands for someone, or that really created this alchemy between a creation and a receiver. And that's just actually allowing that space and trusting that it will show up. Yeah. And like I have had that so many times where I'll create something, and the one thing that I didn't plan or was a mistake or had to run with, people were like, oh, that was so good. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, completely on purpose. Like, that wasn't the part that I was hating about it or whatever. Like, and it is trusting that, and just like the vulnerability of like my favorite works are always the ones that are the raw ones that are imperfect, because I think that we are that way. And it's so nice when we see something else, a creation that makes us feel seen in some way. Right. And so I think sometimes the things that we don't put the effort into and don't think much of are the ones that do land for people. I can see that definitely with my videos and stuff. Like, all my successes are the ones that I've put the least effort into, which can feel really frustrating. Right. Because you're like, I work so hard on all this shit, and you guys are watching the one video that I filmed in a night and I hate. Like why? But it's also really beautiful to be like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what's going to land. I don't know I just got to keep creating. And you never know also how it feeds each other, because the one that feels so effortless and that you just did kind of without thinking, you wouldn't have been able to do that if you wouldn't have had all the effort into others. That's so true. Yeah, I think that's something that you've really reminded me throughout the years, even like with finding my rate or whatever, like, with clients and like money. It's like, someone isn't just paying you for this one thing. They're paying you for the years of experience that you've gotten to be able to make something like this effortless.
Exactly.
You know, it's not like, because I'm like, oh well, it's just an easy video for me to make, but it's like, but it wouldn't have been easy without all of those years. And it's it's important to remember that, like, all of the process, all of the fuck ups, all of that's what allows you to get to that place that maybe suddenly you're like, oh, this is something I feel comfortable with.
Right.
Yeah.
And also as a creative, you know, how important it is to stay inspired.
Yeah.
And that requires resources,
Mm-hmm.
You know, to constantly be able to grow and give
Mm-hmm.
and produce.
Yeah.
You have to also really make sure that you're putting in, that you're also receiving, that you're getting.
Yeah. I agree. I also want to add to that I remember in Atomic Habits, he said something about the fact that everyone thinks that it starts with the inspiration.
Right.
But it actually starts with the action
Mm-hmm.
that then leads to the inspiration.
Yes.
And it's that place that I think so many creatives get stuck as well, is they're just waiting. I'm just waiting to be inspired. I'm waiting for that moment that the idea and the whole situation just falls into place. But it's like, no, you have to act.
Right.
And from that place of acting, then maybe you'll be inspired. And you never know where that inspiration will lead, but you need to start with acting.
Exactly.
You know, that
Exactly.
action.
Yeah. I mean, so much good stuff has been written and said about creativity. I think it's really one of those, you know, peak experiences of being human.
Yeah.
Is actually being able to be creative and create art and create a vision, create a meal, create anything that we feel inspired to offer.
Yeah, I mean, we're creating our own lives every day. I think,
We are.
You know, remembering that is so empowering and freeing to be like, I'm actually creating the life I want to live through the little choices we make every day. So that's why I really do believe we are all creatives, you know?
Right. And we're creating each other.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the missing link in our culture. We're so quick to judge and you know, like, dislike.
Yeah.
But really, our generosity, our attention is so valuable. That's how we create each other.
Completely.
Just in the way we listen, and in the way we listen to hear what really works for us, what are we really liking, not what we're critical about and what's wrong.
Yeah.
And when we can give it to someone else, then we can also give it to ourselves. That's the part where I think many times we miss that.
Yeah, that's true. And that thing as well of, like, I think we can so easily be jealous or feel threatened of the people that are shining or doing well, but sometimes that's the moment to look in and be like, what are you feeling threatened about? Like, what are you jealous of? Is it because they're able to put themselves out there, like, and looking at what we can do to do that, and really realize that someone else's success really is only bringing you up.
Yes. And that the jealousy is really a pointer to an inspiration. Yeah. You know, you're feeling jealous because you're actually recognizing a part of yourself. Yeah. That hasn't been manifested yet. Mm-hmm. And it's just pointing to that place, and it may feel painful. So we think it's jealousy. Yeah. But it's really actually, you know, giving us information. Yeah. And the idea of scarcity, you know, that there's not enough for everyone, is also very rooted in our culture. Yeah. And that, you know, the strongest and the fittest, they're gonna survive, and they're gonna win the race, and all the rest are gonna you know, become obsolete. And I don't know that that's true. No. Yeah. Yeah, I think especially with me and the way that I, like, you know, with the YouTube and everything, it's all my work has been a slow burn. At least that's how I felt. Like, I feel like I've been working at it, and it's slowly growing. It's continued to slowly grow. Right. And I can look at other people and be like, oh my God, like, they just blew up so fast.
But I think something that you always reminded me that helped is like, you know, that someone's overnight success was like 10 years in the making.
Yes.
You know, and everyone's journey is so different.
Yes.
And there is no right or wrong. It's like, you know, sometimes it's that slow burn that then allows you to grow into that one project that like you just don't know.
Yes. And also it's like, how do you define success?
Yeah.
Is it the quantity? Is it the quality?
Yeah.
Is it the speed?
Yeah.
You know, what is success? How do you quantify it? How do you, and I guess again, you go into that place where success is inside.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what you're after is a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
How can you identify what success feels like to you?
Yeah.
And what's actually the feeling? And that's the part that you're actually calling in.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how it looks, it's how
Mm-hmm.
it really feels. And we may be surprised, you know, because sometimes we're being sold this idea that success looks a
Yeah.
certain way, and then we invest so much in looking that way, and then we get there and it's empty.
Yeah.
It's not there.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Like, even when I'm thinking about when I was younger, I definitely, you know, watching Disney Channel and all of that stuff, I was like, oh my God, it'd be so fun to be a Disney star and be famous. And I don't know. And then I got older and I was like, oh my God, I'm so fucking grateful I wasn't a Disney star. Like, what a horrible like thing to go through. Like, you see all these like Selena Gomez and Miley Cyrus, all these people that I grew up idolizing. I now see interviews of them being like how hard that was as a child, and fame as well, this weird thing that for some reason so many of us think is so good, is so isolating and such a burden,
huge sacrifice.
It's, and that's so many things like that we can think like, oh, when I have the money, when I have the success or whatever you want, like whether that be fame or lots of recognition, like I don't know, it's so easy to get caught into that's what's gonna give me that feeling that I want, but that feeling that I want isn't necessarily gonna be from that. That's
exactly
like, you have to find that in
stay
yourself.
close to the feeling rather than how the projection of that, rather than how you think it looks. And you know, give that instruction to your higher self, you know, like get to the feeling, not to the appearance of it,
which has helped me so much, because I remember I'm a big manifester. Like I love talking about manifestation because I've really seen it in my own life.
Yes,
how having those intentions and that clarity and talking about it and fantasizing about it can really bring it to life. I've seen it happen to me so many times. And I think I remember telling you one time, like, I want this and this and this to happen, and you were like, be careful, I think you want a feeling. And you encouraged me to, when I'm asking for what I'm manifesting and when I'm fantasizing about it, fantasize about how it feels and not what it looks like.
Right.
And you're going to be surprised that maybe it is what you thought, but maybe it's going to take you somewhere completely different. But at least then you're getting what you actually want.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're going to end it.
Yeah, that's it? Okay. Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Unless you have anything to add.
I think I have like just one little kind of vision that came into my mind, and maybe we can end with that because it's a little story. I remember when I went into your class 1, your first year of school, and there was a whole wall with paintings that you and your classmates made, and they were all of the exact same thing. They were all of this mountain and a sun and a sunset, and it really struck me. It really bothered me in a way, because I thought, oh, why are they all the same? Like, why aren't they encouraging your individualistic expression? And all of a sudden it landed that they're not the same. Each one of these paintings was different.
Yeah.
And I just got this huge learning at that moment about creativity, about being yourself, you know, this idea that we need to be special.
Yeah, or super original.
Or super original. We actually don't need to work so hard.
Yeah.
We already are.
Yeah.
And it's really about relaxing into who we already are and our quirkiness and the cracks and the imperfection, and just breathing into that and allowing that to shine through.
Yes.
All right.
Well, that was lovely. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I hope you guys got something from it. I definitely did. It's all these things that even if we know, it's so easy to forget.
Yeah, like, so good to remind ourselves over and over
just
again.
have these narratives. Like, that's why I love listening to podcasts like these, because even if you're listening and you're like, I know all of this already, it's like, oh, but thank you for reminding me.
It's always about remembering. We keep on forgetting.
Well, yeah, I guess that's part of being human.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you guys. Feel free to let us know what you think. If you want more episodes like this, if you have any topics you want us to talk about, you can leave it in the comments, send us a message, and yeah, very grateful, and we'll talk to you all soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.